Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Timeless Flex DPS Rokit, and we're here to talk about the main event of OWCS. So, Rokit, could you maybe start and tell us a little bit about your team and how it came together from this sort of WISP core to ending up at Timeless, and why does the roster look how it does right now?
Yeah, for sure. I think, after Flash Ops when we got, we placed decently, third wasn't bad. We were, a few fixes away from I think taking the whole thing, to be honest. But we kind of knew we wanted to stick with the same core, which is, me, Riker, and Chopper. And then add a few pieces if we could. We wanted to keep CJ, which luckily we did, even though he was like a really, big hot commodity in the off season. Um, we managed to keep CJ, and then we wanted to add an extra tank and an extra DPS. Just players we're familiar with that we had during contenders previously. I see adds like a big outside of game just backbone to the team that we all really appreciate and wanted back. And then Sunjun is just like he's just so insane. And when we saw that you could have like imports, we were like, okay, this guy is like he did really good things for us before. And we were like, it'd just be a crime to not have him. And also, we didn't want another team in to snag him since he, is just like pretty much like a adopted NA player at this point. Like um, and then yeah, so we pretty much went with that. But the real struggle this offseason, I think, was just trying to find a main support. We wanted to keep Liar, but he had interested in playing with the M80 guys or Winthrop at the time. And so we kind of just trialed around, and we honestly thought we were doomed. We ended up actually having OG for a brief period before everything went down.
Yeah.
And so it was like we were like scrimming with OG and doing really really well, and then unfortunately things happen. And so like we're like like right before roster lock, we're like, okay, we had this guy, now we don't. And luckily we were able to convince Opener, who we thought was like really really good. He was on some other team at that point. um we were just like so happy to get him because that guy, on the outside looking in, doesn't seem like someone that would be like someone that you would be like super super interested in getting like a super hot player. But he is just like such a you know great leader, and just nice guy in general, always reliable. So yeah, pretty much that's it.
How is it as well working with the two Korean imports, and how is their English in terms of interacting and gelling with the rest of the team?
I'd say that Opener's English is like really, really great. We were before, we're used to having Sunjun, who had like, iffy English. We could like still talk to him. But it was like a little hard to like, in feedback and review to, get everything across in one take. But Opener is like really, really excellent English. We joked that like he has better English than some of the players on our team. But yeah, he's really, 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 really just has great English, great calling. Can always, get points across to Sanjun if he needs to when we're doing VOD review. And so, like all things considered, I haven't played with very many Koreans, but they're very, very easy to communicate with, especially, if you make it easy to understand, which I think everyone on our team does a great job of doing. So.
And how does that calling structure? I remember speaking to Jay Caro at one point, and he talks about playing with you and how you yourself were actually quite vocal in terms of directing and leading the team. So how does it look on this current iteration of Timeless in terms of the main call of a shot call and who's taken responsibility for what?
So since we do cycle through two tanks, both of them are very, very great, reliable callers, but I pretty much stand, 100% of the time, and that's kind of just what's been working for us. Because of my my capability to be vocal and leadership and all that I've honed over playing for the past few years. And so yeah, I mean, I'd say it's pretty much Opener obviously doing the main support thing, and then our tanks call, and our hit scans call sometimes. But I mean, it's pretty much just being our tanks doing all the planning, helping out with ult tracking. Mid fight target calling is almost 100% of the time me. um so yeah, I mean, it's just pretty much me and my tanks through team fights.
And is it you and the tanks as well who end up becoming? There's always sort of like the tactical leader in game of a shot caller, but there's also a lot of the time a need for like an emotional leader in terms of maps not going right, something's not going right. Who's the sort of person in your team who then is like rallies for troops or solves these problems?
Definitely, like Icy, he's been playing longer than anyone on our team. He's been playing since like 2019, 2018. And so he has like a lot of, experience. He's, had experience up and down in contenders. He had like a brief stint in Owl that fell through. So, he's kind of been around the block and, all the things that could have gone bad have gone bad to him. So he knows how to deal with, just like when shit hits the fan. But like as for like tactical leadership, like definitely I'd say myself, I try to be like like I look up to someone like UB who's like really capable of, calling in mid fight, especially against like really, really dominant, like great teams with great synergy. So yeah, I mean, I think together, like that's where we strive best, and that's why I think our core might not have the most like stellar talent on paper, but together I think we can definitely hang with the top teams, and I think that's what helps us stand out. So.
And where does your team sit? Because obviously we have teams on sort of one end in terms of maybe the Torontos or the M80s and the sort of like full-time salary, full dedicated to it. And then we have other teams who are sort of non-orged, having to fit it around their like normal lives. Where is your team sort of on that scale of what does sort of a normal practice schedule look like for you?
Yeah, we're definitely not. I think we're like, we play like we're a salary team, but we're not salaried at all, or at least a little bit. We're salaried a little bit, but not like some of these other orgs.
Yeah.
But we really are like I'd say we're so hungry, man. Like we really want to have a great performance in these first two stages, and see if we can get on an org. But we're really treating this like this is the end all be all. A lot of our players really want to win. It's really great to have that Korean mindset come in too with opener, who's like really, really, like just his whole thing is, hard work and, just teamwork. And, it's just great to have that kind of come in and, I think give us an edge in terms of like, just working hard, we don't really have the resources that other teams have. So, we have to kind of take every advantage we can get. And that, is going to take, working hard, working together, our flexibility. So stuff like that, I think we treat it as, as seriously as everyone else. And, I think it shows,
How does the coaching factor into that in terms of, are we VOD reviewing every day? Where would you sort of, I guess we sort of talk about it maybe often on Coachable, the sort of like the scale of maybe there's like the dad coach on one side and then maybe the sort of tactical genius on the other side. What does it sort of look like for you guys on Timeless?
I'd say we definitely don't have like a dad coach, we don't got no gum butter here or anything, but we have Cap and Tensa who definitely, I'd say are more, they're definitely coaches, but I'd also say they're more like a kind of extensions of the team, especially Cap, we treat him like any other player, but he's always there to have feedback. He works just as hard as every player, balancing school just like the rest of us, he's putting in 110%, which we all have to respect. But yeah, I mean, he helps with strategy feedback. He'll stay up really late looking at Korea VODs and stuff like that. Everything you need kind of just like an extension of the team, to help be successful and, run VODs and have players run VODs. I'm very happy with our coaching staff. And, I think it's what a team like us kind of need right now. For now, it's just like we need as much help as we can get to just kind of be a hive mind as much so as we don't really need like that Gumba dictator,
Yeah.
like a figure yet.
And obviously it's kind of worked, at least initial results, right? We go into the group stage and you end up beating M80, which maybe was a surprise for a lot of people on paper. Going into that game, were you expectant, like obviously you go in planning to win, right? But where did you feel the power level was between the two of you going into that match?
I mean, I think we're a pretty good scrimbucks team. We've had pretty good scrims. Versus honestly everyone, Toronto, M80, like everyone, we feel very confident going into every game. I don't think we expected it to be so close. Not in a way to be overconfident, but more in just like a way, we thought that if we played our game, there's nothing that could go wrong, and they pulled out some good tricks, and luckily I think we pulled it out in the end. But I think yeah, I mean, I think we take ourselves as seriously as everyone else, so we want everyone else to take us as seriously as everyone else.
Well, by beating them, that gives them a pretty good reason to take you seriously.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, of course. Yeah. That's exactly what we wanted. So
because of that as well, you actually get the benefit of not having to play this weekend just gone. So you weren't hit with the patch change into match day a few days later. So how How do you guys feel now on this new patch in terms of, is it a buff of a team or maybe a nerf of a team compared to previously?
I mean, I think it's not too early to say, but it's definitely, it's hard to say, because I think, last patch, when we're able to play, the heroes we were really good at, like Chopper on Sojourn, me on Tracer, CJ on Kiriko. It's like those are like really really comfort picks that I think we have an edge on 90% of the tournament in NA. So I think it's definitely last patch was good for us, but seeing as how I think this patch also leaves, room for not worse teams, but teams that are punching up to actually punch up. If you watch the games in like Korea, like Falcons losing like a lot of maps, almost losing the whole set. That's like that's something that's good for teams like us, I'd say. Teams that aren't like Toronto. Um, to potentially just punch up and maybe have a better read than them. But it also could be good for teams that are below us. So it's a little bit too early to say, but I think our flexibility leaves room for pretty much every patch change. I have two tanks. I have two tanks who could be reliable on Mauga. We have a very very flexible DPS line and a very very flexible backline. So, I mean, I think, I think it's going to be a great patch for us.
I think as well, especially with if it moves to these sort of metas of maybe what we're seeing in Korea and we saw over the weekend, or where it's like very sort of macro based metas, this quite often
Yeah.
suits teams who have more time and more experience together, maybe even with how recent the patch is, teams who have experienced metas like this before. So maybe do you think you guys are maybe an advantage over some teams, like even maybe say like an M80 or something, who don't have the same experience together?
100%. I mean, I think just like you said, this is like a patch that favors teamwork and people who play together and who can gel really well together. And so new teams that you kind of just throw top talent together, I think will won't struggle, but I think there'll always be that edge that we have in the heat of the moment where we I know exactly what my players are going to be doing because we play together for so long. Even though it's a new hero, it's a new comp, there's still tendencies that you can kind of pick up on and you kind of remember for long periods of time. So yeah, I mean, I'd say everything about this patch is really really good for Timeless.
One thing I'm quite interested in, because even though Mauga's been out for a while, this is the first time we're really seeing Mauga played to this extent, maybe even potentially all the time. But it's the same time that a lot of teams got the week off in terms of not having to play their matches. Teams have pulled back from streaming their scrims to get ready for the main event. So we've not seen a lot of the main tanks on Mauga. I mean, we maybe saw a little bit of Hawk sort of flexing his stuff on Toronto in some of the scrims. And obviously, maybe everyone expects someone to be pretty good at anything he
Yeah.
touches. So what's the sort of internal feeling of like, I guess what I'm trying to get is some kind of like internal Mauga power rankings in terms of where you think you guys stack up in that, I guess,
Uh,
quite tight
for
contest.
Yeah, for manga specifically, I mean, dude, I don't even know. Like, I thought like after just watching the games from Korea, I was like, okay, surely Smurf's gonna be top manga, and that guy's just like dying first every fight. I'm just like, that guy's literally the GOAT, and he's just like struggling. So I think it's hard to instantly put people who you'd expect to be top mangas at the top, like someone, even though I'm sure he's going to be a great manga, he's probably going to be like the best manga. So it's like it's really early to say, but I know. I mean, Hawk. Like, I think players with experience on that ground tank, like Hawk, are going to be pretty decent. And obviously, someone and Mirror and those players like that who have that NA ground tank experience. Although I wouldn't say that this is kind of unlike anything we've ever seen before. Very clearly, this isn't like that slow, Ryan or Ram.
Yeah.
But obviously, I have to include our tanks too. I think our tanks are just so damn good at what they do, and I like they're gonna work really hard and grind the hero out, watch VODs as much as possible to make sure that they're of the top tier echelon mogas. So
And then if we move maybe into the bracket, so the bracket's changed a couple of times back and forth, but
yeah.
now it's finally settled. You find yourselves on, I guess, the Toronto side of the bracket. Are you happier with this version of the bracket, or would you have rather have been on the other side?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, I think we kind of got baited into thinking that I mean, I can go into it forever, about like what happened, but I mean, pretty much, we beat M80 in groups, and then we get put on the same side as Toronto. for some reason seed 1 and seed 3 are on the same side and not seed 1 and seed 4, which M80 are seed 4, where seed 3, usually it's like seed 1 and seed 4 on
Yeah.
one side and seed 2 and seed 3 on the other. But I mean, we even looked into it, like, mathematically the bracket just doesn't add up. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. But it is what it is. Hopefully, it doesn't happen again. But I think it is what it is. We're not scared of anyone. So it is definitely unfortunate that we get punished for beating M80. We beat M80 and they get an easier bracket, but it's it is what it is, and I don't have any ill feeling towards anyone. So yeah, I don't know. We just gotta kind of just gotta deal with it. So
Yeah, I guess ultimately you're gonna have to play everyone anyway, right? At some point or the
yeah,
other.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, and there's at least
Yeah.
double elimination, so you get like a
Yeah, yeah.
backup chance.
It was gonna happen at some point, so might as
Yeah.
well have it happen earlier. So
So how do you feel then? Because I think a lot of people when they look at North America, they very much seen as sort of like the Toronto tier, and then there's a handful of teams,
yeah.
including yourselves, behind them. Then the sort of the rest of the teams. How reachable do you think Toronto are in terms of obviously they've got maybe the best imports, a lot of the best players, the most resources. How reachable is that Toronto team?
I mean, it's they're definitely hard to reach. They've got they're all going to be at that facility. They all have housing. They're going to be like gelling in person together, which you can't say about any other team in the U.S. or I don't even know EU, but it's hard to have people housed and stuff like that, and have people in facilities, and they still do have like the MVP, grand champion, someone merits like unbelievable. That backline is unreally like it's unbelievably reliable and stuff. So it's like especially that backline, man. Like they're doing ranked every night. It's like
Yeah.
they're literally just perma, just working together. So I mean, I think it's definitely possible. More likely in metas like this than if they have someone on Monkey and Rupanana and Lenny on Tracer. But I think this would be a meta where they are reachable. But especially for the teams in that tier below us that you were talking about, I mean, I'd say it's like highly unlikely to have any of them reach to Toronto, including us. Like it's just going to be difficult.
So obviously, in an ideal world, you'd win the tournament, but there's also levels below that where you maybe would still look back and say, "Well, we're happy with that. And that was a successful tournament." So what's the sort of aim in? What's almost, I guess, the minimum requirement in terms of being happy with the result?
Happy, probably top 2. I
Hmm.
think we'd be okay with getting top 3. I mean, obviously we'd be happy with getting top 3. That's kind of all that matters in these two tournaments. You want to get top
Yeah.
3 to secure that land spot. But everyone is really, really, driven, and everyone wants to, thinks we can be top 2. Everyone knows we can be top 2. And so everyone wants to go for that. But I think everyone would also just be happy with getting third. It's not the end of the world, but I think everyone wants to get top 2 or just win. I
Yeah.
think this is literally the perfect patch, for us to just sneak in and steal stage 1, just under the rug. So
Well, the nature of some of these, like having a patch change, then a tournament so soon afterwards, is actually quite a great equalizer in terms of all the teams are starting from zero essentially in terms of trying to figure it out and find the best thing. So it could be a good time. We talked obviously about maybe if I was to ask you the scariest team, maybe the answer's obviously Toronto. But of the other teams, maybe M80 and Luminosity are probably the big ones, and LFO around you. Do you think the patch has buffed or nerfed those teams?
um, I think probably like the new teams like LFO are not, they're not new, but they're kind of just like um a product of roster mania. So it's like for them who don't have as much experience together, it's kind of just like pieces in. I think it's probably going to be more of a struggle for them. I think a team like that would benefit from a meta where you can kind of just rely on individual mechanics, for sure. You know, but a team like Luminosity, that's been playing for a long time, I think that would more benefit them. Because they've been together forever, and they have a flexible roster. They have 2 tanks, they have 3 supports. Um, Reliable DPS line. So I mean, I think this patch is definitely good for them. But like I said, I mean, teams that kind of just built rosters with the hopes of just kind of out mechanicking everyone, like unfortunately LFO and to an extent M80 even. I think they're gonna. I mean, it's too early to say if they're gonna struggle, but I think they would have much preferred the previous patch where you can kind of just put Pelican on Sojourner or Tracer or Echo or whatever, and just have them just like do your trick, just kind of put him in and tell him to do his trick. So, you know, um, but yeah, I mean, I think teams like us and Luminosity, and obviously Toronto, are gonna benefit from this the most.
No, I think that's really reasonable. Thank you very much, Rokit. I do appreciate the time, and best of luck to you and the boys in the tournament. I'm sure we'll all be watching. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Yeah. Bye bye.